None of us can do it alone, and certainly no member state can handle this crisis on their own. And because in this crisis, and in our union more generally, it is only by helping each other that we can help ourselves. But the story from the last few weeks is partly a painful one to tell. When Europe really needed to be there for each other, too many initially looked out for themselves. When Europe really needed an all-for-one spirit, too many initially gave an only for me response. And when Europe really needed to prove that this is not only a fair weather union, too many initially refused to share their umbrella. But it was not long before some felt the consequences of their own uncoordinated action. And this is why over the last few weeks, we took exceptional and extraordinary measures to coordinate and enable the action that is needed. Since then, things are improving, and member states are starting to help each other to help themselves. Europe is now really stepping up. But the people of Europe are watching what happens next. And we all know what is at stake. What we do now matters for today as well as for the future. Honourable members, the outbreak of the coronavirus is first and foremost a public health emergency. And we will stop at nothing to save lives. To do that, we are lucky to have and to be able to rely on the best healthcare professionals in the world. From Milan to Madrid and beyond, they are producing miracles every single day. But as we have seen, both there and elsewhere, the scale of the outbreak is stretching them to the breaking point. They urgently need the equipment, the right equipment. They need the right amount of it, and they need it right now. But instead of that, what we saw was crucial equipment stuck in bottleneck or at borders for days. And this is why we had to take matters into our own hands as far as we could to release these blockades. This is why we are creating the first ever European stockpile of medical equipment such as ventilators, masks and lab supplies. The Commission will finance 90% of this stockpile through rescEU. This is why we launched several joint procurement with member states for testing kits, ventilators and protective equipment. 25 member states joined the letter. And they're good news. Since Tuesday, we know that their demands for masks, gloves, goggles, face shields can be matched by the producers. The first deliveries should start in the coming weeks. And because knowledge saves lives in a pandemic, we set up a European team of scientists, experts to help us come up with coordinated measures that we all can follow. I personally chair these discussions twice a week. Doing so has only deepened my conviction that we will need to draw on all that makes us strong, to get through this together, and then to get back on our feet again. And we have no stronger asset for this than our unique single market. A successful European response can only be coordinated if our internal market and our Schengen area work the way it should. A crisis without borders cannot be resolved by putting barriers between us. And yet, this is exactly the first reflex that many European countries had. This simply makes no sense, because there is not one single member state that can meet its own needs when it comes to vital medical supplies and equipment. Not one. The free movement of goods and services is therefore our strongest and, frankly, our only asset to ensure supplies can go where they are needed most. It makes no sense that some countries unilaterally decided to stop exports to others in the internal market. And this is why the Commission intervened when a number of countries blocked exports of protective equipment to Italy. It is why we issued guidelines for border measures to protect health and keep goods and essential services available. It is why we're calling for priority green lanes for transport of goods. These will ensure that crossing the border takes no more than 15 minutes, and they will help ensure that goods and supply can go where they are needed, and we all can avoid shortages. It pains me that we had to do this, but our coordinated approach is now bearing fruit. The internal market is already functioning better, and we all welcome the news that hospitals in Saxony took patients from Lombardy, while others from the Grand Est in France are now being treated in the Grand Duchy in Luxembourg. This only goes to prove that it is only by helping each other that we can help ourselves. Honourable members, the whole set of measures that we have taken reflects the unprecedented situation we're all in. But as I said earlier, the people of Europe are watching what happens next. And they, of course, want us to do everything we can to save as many lives as we can. But they are also thinking about the day after. They are thinking about what job will they have to go back to. What will happen to their business and to their employers? What will happen to their savings and their mortgage? They will worry about their parents, their neighbor, their local community. They will know that their governments had to make difficult decisions to save lives, yes. But they will also remember who was there for them and who was not. And they will remember those that acted and those who did not. And they will remember the decisions that we take today or those we will not. The point is that sometime soon there will be a day after. And our job is to make sure that on that day and on all that follow it, the European Union is there for those that need it. What we do now really matters. And this is why we launched the Coronavirus Response Investment Initiative, to help direct 37 billion mitigate the impact of the crisis, to save lives, jobs and businesses. This is why we adopted the most flexible ever temporary rules on state aid, to enable member states to give a lifeline to their businesses. The first cases were approved in record time within a matter of hours. And this is why, for the first time in our history, we have activated the General Escape Clause in the Stability and Growth Pact. That means that member states can use all the firepower they have to support those in work or those out of work, to support businesses, small and big, and to support people through these tough times.